Yeah, on the hardware side, it's not going to be that exciting. I can tell you that much right now.
No, that's okay.
But there was a lot on this. I was pleasantly surprised by the software stuff.
I think that's a more interesting one anyway.
I mean, some nice battery bumps. I mean, there's some things in there that I'm never going to complain about a bigger battery. Samsung.
Hello and welcome to the Android Police podcast. My name is Daniel Bader.
Is this where I step in now?
This is you. This is your shot.
I am Steven Radosha, not Will.
No.
Slight change to the long-time listeners.
So some housekeeping. If y'all are coming back here after a couple of weeks wondering what the hell happened to the Android Police podcast, Will left us. And if you listen to our last show, and it's a couple months ago now, he went off and joined the good folks at 9 to 5 Google. He's now running their Pixelated podcast, so go off and listen to that. I'll never tell you not to, because I love Will and I love what he does.
Absolutely.
We shut this podcast down for a bit, took our bearings, worked some summer hours, and then decided we're going to come back on a semi-regular basis to talk about stuff that interests us. So Steven and I will jump on during the busy season where we see something interesting. We're going to host a show, and we won't. And I guess, we'll see how it goes. If it needs to go back to weekly, we'll do that. But until then, it'll likely be bi-weekly, maybe monthly, but we'll try to find something to talk about every couple of weeks. This week, we're publishing on August 20th for a good reason. It's Made by Google 2025. Bunch of stuff just got announced. Pixel 10, Pixel 10 Pro, Pixel 10 Pro XL, Pixel 10 Pro Fold, Pixel Buds 2a, Pixel Watch 4, a whole bunch of AI. So
yeah,
we're going to spend this time talking about that. And Steven, you were in New York last week to play with all of these devices.
Yes.
You spent time with some of their Google reps talking about the new AI features. So where do you want to start? Let's do hardware, and then we'll jump into software. But if you've seen the leaks, you've seen them all. This is
You got exactly what we expected, right down the middle of the runway. Really, no surprises there, and that's fine. I would, if it were 4 years of the same design with no major upgrades, I could see getting a little bit more agitated about that. The second year, I'm not going to eat Google's lunch for that. So you're getting a mild refresh. You're not going to notice a whole heck of a lot on the hardware side, feeling them in hand. I had my 9 Pro XL and the 10 Pro XL side by side, and besides the new color, Moonstone, and some of that, not having the pink quartz, you'd be hard-pressed to tell the difference between the devices. But that's okay. Decent battery bump, little battery bump. You get 5,200 milliamp hours now in the 10 Pro XL, so that's good. Faster charging in the Pro XL. A little disappointed that that's not coming down to the regular Pro and some of the other devices, but fast charging when we're talking 45 watts now on the 10 Pro XL. But it's better than what we had been getting in Pixel land, so that's something to look forward to. So those are some decent. I'm never going to complain about a bigger battery. You could, whether Tensor G5 is more power efficient, that's yet to be seen in some longer testing. But from my perspective, it was the software that made the difference. And we've gone over this before, I've always felt that Google has had a much better roadmap, even though I think AI has been by and large useless across the board. Google's had Google's had a much better roadmap of where they've wanted to take their version with Gemini as opposed to Galaxy AI. When I got and part of the reason I was so upset about the S25 Ultra was that Samsung said, we don't really have a lot of on the hardware side. The design's not changing a whole heck of a lot. But here's this whole suite of Galaxy AI stuff. Now Bar, which actually came to be somewhat useful. Now Brief, which still in my estimation does next to nothing. The multimodal stuff that was still too many steps to get where I wanted to go. Google, and with the Pixel 10, you're going to notice that Magic Q and some of the other things we're going to talk about are a noticeable gap now to AI becoming useful for people who don't know how to use AI. I don't want to have to know what prompts. I don't want to have to parse prompts to get where I want to go. And I think Google, as the rep said, and the demos and all this, they're just demos. It still has to be in testing. But I think you're going to see that AI becomes significantly more useful now on the Pixel 10 as opposed to what we've seen on smartphones previously.
I'm more interested in the software improvements too, but there are a few hardware updates that I do want to get to. And
Sure.
one in particular is interesting to me. And it's the Pixel Snap
Yes.
Qi 2 support for the entire phone line.
Yep.
First on the Android side. Give us a sense of what that enables the Pixels to do in relation to something like the iPhone's MagCase support.
Right. So it was impressive. The magnets are impressive. The things that they're able to do. They have software stuff with Material 3 Expressive. Even on the Fold, the Fold can be on the Pixel Snap chargers in 2 orientations, and you could do that with the phones as well. So it's going to enable a whole host of accessories now. When you're auto home, you're going to see a lot more capabilities there on the charging side, but also on the accessory side. And I love the fact that when they said, well, that the Pixel Pro Fold 10 Pro Fold could be in landscape on the charger, you had like a whole little whatever you want to call it, like Amazon Echo Show type thing pulled up there with Material 3 Expressive. You had your whole day there. There's a whole bunch of widgets that you could have live on it. It's just a really interesting. It's nice to see that finally take shape, and I love that they put it across the entire lineup, and that you could have it. The flexibility and the versatility that gives you, I think, is really interesting.
Okay, so this, just to be clear for the 4 people who may not know what this is, it's basically the support for built-in magnets
Right
into the phone itself. So it's the first, I wouldn't say first, because HMD put out a very unexciting device. I think it was last year or 2 years ago that did have built-in magnets that supported Qi 2. But since then, there have been no phones to support Qi 2. And this is obviously the biggest and most scaled launch of magnets inside of an Android phone. It supports Qi 2.2 with 25-watt wireless charging on the Pro XL, which is great.
That's nice speeds.
The same speed as the iPhone 16 Pro series, which is awesome. Clearly, like Qi 2 chargers are picking up every accessory maker from Anker to Ugreen to Belkin to whatever, Mophie. Like, they're all supporting it now. It's great. And you should be able, if you just have a Qi 2.2 capable charger, to just put your Pixel on that charger and it will work. So it's not like you need a Pixel specific product. You will benefit from some other stuff, I believe. But as long as it's Qi 2.2 compatible, you'll get full 25-watt. If it's not, if it's just Qi 2, you'll get 15-watt support. And this compares to Samsung, OnePlus, Oppo, Vivo. Every other manufacturer has just come out with cases and said their phone supports Qi 2, but you have to buy a case.
That very fancy OnePlus case that you had to buy.
It's a lot of money. It's not really what we signed up for. A lot of people, sure, they buy cases, but it's better to have it in the phone for obvious reasons. The case can be thinner. It can be
you don't want to be limited
cheaper.
by their designs. Yeah,
for sure. And we've seen the proliferation of MagSafe. I mean, obviously the cases have magnets in them because you need to reinforce the magnets in the phone. But what ends up happening is when you have the magnets in the phone, the case can be a lot thinner. It can be more, the design can be a little bit more versatile, and just you don't have to charge nearly as much.
Yeah.
So that's the benefit here. Yeah. And I think this will also start the process of bringing more, whatever it's Qi 2 magnet charging into Android phones with next year's devices.
Yeah, everyone's going to want to follow that now. When you see it in action and just how easy it is to use and how nice it is to use, that's going to be, you're going to see customers be like, well, hold on now, why don't you have that? So you're going to see that. You're going to see that definitely in next year's releases without the need of a case.
One thing that Google is doing, though, that it will not be exciting to US users, though, is in the US and US only, they are getting rid of the SIM slot.
I can't. I mean, I understand. I try to pull myself out of. It's very easy to get wrapped up in the fact that, okay, I switch SIMs a lot because of my job. I have review phones. I'm constantly switching devices. Who actually does that? Do users care? You should care, even if you don't switch your devices very often, because it locks you into a whole host of things, and it makes you more dependent on your carrier or whoever it is to get, or Google Fi, whatever you happen to be doing, to move your phone around. If you need to move, if you need something, if you want to switch service, if you want to switch carriers, it's just another way that you're limiting what customers can do. And I don't like that. It doesn't take up that much space. I don't care what. It's not like they're making the devices that much thinner on the Pixel 10 side. So I don't really know what the justification would be there, but that I can't stand it. It's a headache. It doesn't always work right when you call your carrier the first time. They send it over, and it's not always a clean experience. I just don't like eSIM. Period. Ended on the phones. I don't know why that became a thing, other than the fact to give the manufacturers and the carriers more control over the customer.
Well, I think because we've had eSIMs built into the secondary SIM slot for years, we know that there can be meaningful benefit to having that option, right? You go overseas, you buy an eSIM, it's super cheap, super easy.
But
However,
replacing
to get rid of the SIM slot entirely on just one unit is obviously kowtowing to the carriers. Like, it is not a matter of they're saving space inside the device to put bigger battery, because if that was the case, they would get rid of the eSIM across the world. It's that the US is pushing. I mean, it sounds conspiratorial, but there does seem to be an eSIM agenda proliferating in the US that does not exist elsewhere. And it just speaks to the strength of the carriers, in that Google likely made the same sweetheart deal with the carriers that Apple did in order to get rid of the eSIMs, and is couching it in the language of convenience.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's disappointing because you see, when I speak to people from overseas, and it's always, number one, they're very confused by the fact that we do as much carrier financing as we do with the devices, because they're just comfortable moving from one carrier to the next. They take their devices. Why mid-range devices? That's why all these companies have a robust mid-range market in Europe, because people pay cash for their phone and take it wherever they want. And here in the United States, we have a system where it's carrier finance deals, because it's a lot easier with a $1,300, $1,200 phone in the case of the Pixel 10 Pro XL to pay that $30 a month, get some sort of carrier deal, be on their books, and then you don't have to worry about SIMs, or they don't want you worrying about SIMs, because you'll stay with Verizon forever, whoever it happens to be.
Anyway, that's something we can talk about a little bit more when we get the devices and review them, see how it impacts things. But another hardware change is something I wanted to talk to you about: the cameras. So it looks like, and this is just from the specs, the Pixel Pros have a very similar camera setup to last year. Did they mention any notable hardware improvements over the Pixel 9 series?
I say with that, they focused mostly on, we'll get to Tensor in a moment, the ISP stuff, and then the other stuff where you have camera coaching and all this stuff with the AI stuff. I didn't see a whole lot as far as the hardware itself on the camera, because it does seem like a very similar setup to last year. But it's more what they've added to the back end that's going to supposedly make the difference with a lot of the camera stuff.
So on the cheapest phone, the Pixel 10, though, they've added a telephoto for the first time,
which is nice. I like that a lot. I mean, I understand you want for portrait photos. I really like I like having the telephoto option as well as the Ultra. I like them adding that in there. Add that versatility to people who are not spending a lot of money. You buy a Pixel in large part because of the camera, and I like getting that extra versatility on the less expensive phone for sure.
Yeah. So just comparing like spec for spec between the Pixel 10 Pro XL and the Pixel 9 Pro XL, it appears that the camera hardware is identical.
Yes.
But we don't know much about, as you said, the improvements to the image signal processor as part of the Tensor G5.
Right.
Google has been pretty tight-lipped about the Tensor G5 as a whole.
I have an experience with that. We were trying to get They're very straightforward and forthcoming with the TPU improvements, all the stuff that they've done.
Tensor processing unit.
Right. So all the stuff that they've done to enhance the AI experience with Tensor. A lot of stuff with the ISP, talking about the improved camera performance and on that end. But very tight-lipped in terms of, I don't even think, they wouldn't even tell us the cores that were in it. They told us the breakdown of the cores, but they wouldn't tell us the actual cores themselves that were asked. We heard rumors for months that if you were to ask me, what's the big thing, the major glaring issue that I had with my Pixel 9 Pro XL last year, it was the not bad gaming performance, but the somewhat substandard gaming performance for the same amount of money that I get on a Galaxy S25 Ultra. We heard for months that Google heard that complaint. The GPU performance was going to be 15% better on Tensor G5. I asked that question in the briefing, and it was nothing. Across the board, just stonewall. I was told that the speakers are better and the screen is a little bit brighter and better this year, so you'll enjoy the gaming experience more. That doesn't buy me more frames. So
So, I mean, we've seen the rumored Tensor G5 specs.
Right.
And they're not great.
No.
And that's why I think, aside from the change from Samsung's manufacturing process to TSMC,
right,
which should bring some efficiencies to, sustain performance and in general just make the chip cooler, we're not going to see a massive increase. According to a leak from Android Authority in October last year, there is a similar core setup to the Tensor G4. So it's a single ARM Cortex X4 core in the big cluster. The mid cluster now has 5 Cortex A725s as opposed to 3 Cortex A720s, which is a very kind of minor update to the performance cores. And then the efficiency cores, there are now only 2 A520s rather than 4 A520s. So my guess is what's going to happen here is you're going to see a very, very similar outlay in terms of peak performance. Sustained performance will likely be better, and idle performance will also be the same. Yeah, to me that speaks to we wanted the G5 to be a big upgrade because we wanted it to be custom from Google, blah, 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 when it moved to TSMC. It looks like that might have to wait until the G6.
Right. And this is why everybody was jumping up and down. And I heard this so many times last year with the Pixel 9. Oh, wait for TSMC. Don't buy a phone with a Tensor G4 in it. You need to wait for next year's. I don't think that, I never thought that TSMC was going to somehow be a savior that would put a Tensor G5 on the same level as a Snapdragon 8 Elite. That would take a conscious effort on Google's part. They've made it clear they don't want to do that. They're not interested in that. But the problem at TSMC, what TSMC solved for Qualcomm was that the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 overheated. The Snapdragon 888 was a heat monster. You could fry an egg on that thing. The power efficiency and the thermal performance is what got better. Now, I understand that the early Tensors had problems with this, but for the most part, I don't know about what your experience was, by the Tensor G3 and certainly by the Tensor G4, battery performance was pretty good. Thermal performance was pretty good. So these things that were solved by TSMC previously for Qualcomm, I didn't think they would really bring that to Google. You're right. Sustained performance, better thermals, maybe even better thermals. That's fine, and that'll help gaming as well. But I just didn't see that huge people. There was like this shining beacon that people were waiting for. Oh, TSMC is going to fix Tensor. I was like, I don't think there's anything wrong with Tensor, number one. And based on Google's mission statement for what they want to do with their chipsets, that's not rivaling the Snapdragon 8 Elite is not going to be in the cards.
Yeah, I mean, again, it comes down to their 3 nanometer process is more efficient than Samsung's 4 nanometer process. The die will be smaller. It will produce less heat. That's basically it. But their cores are pretty run-of-the-mill ARM Cortex stuff. It does not look like the GPU is getting a massive upgrade this year.
That's sad.
So it's an imagination according to this leak, an Imagination Technologies GPU rather than the Mali GPU built into ARM's typical reference design. And we don't know anything about this one other than it's got fewer cores and a higher clock speed. But besides that, we'll have to wait and see. And then, as they mentioned, like the TPU, the tensor processing unit, basically the NPU equivalent that Google puts in its devices, the ones that the cores that process AI, will also get a significant improvement.
Right.
But other than that, we don't really know too much about the chip.
No, we weren't told about the modem either. We asked specifically about the modem, and we were not told about the modem.
I will put money on the fact that it's the same modem as last year.
Exynos 5400 still rocking.
I would put money on that. I don't think there's any incentive for Google to rock the boat right now.
Right.
What are also, like, if they're trying to get away from Qualcomm, where else can they go?
Right. Where are they going to get?
Where are they going to source? They can get something from MediaTek,
right?
But it's still probably not going to be as good as what they have on Samsung.
Right.
And they've got now 2 years of optimizations built in there, so
which helps a lot. Let me tell you, don't discount that at all. I had a lot of problems with my Exynos. I think it was the 5300 on the Pixel 7a. Whatever it was, disaster. But over time, they've made it better on the A series. It does make a difference. It makes a difference.
So here's the thing, right? The Google made its best phones ever last year. The Pixel 9 series was incredible and really had no show-stopping problems like previous Pixel releases. And as a result, I think they decided to focus, and just on we'll talk about software in a second, but just in terms of the priorities of the hardware unit, right? If we've read between the lines of what Rick Osterloh has said in various interviews over the last year, as he has taken on more of the Android responsibility, right? Because you know that Android got the Android team rather got moved into his division,
right?
So he's now focusing on hardware and software. He's focusing on AI. He's focusing on making the Pixel the best canvas for whatever Gemini is going to turn into, right? The show-stopping example of what mobile AI can be. And this is the year, because Google is so far ahead of Apple when it comes to built-in AI.
Apple would have to take the field first, and then they'll be...
That's it. So I think this doesn't need to be a massive hardware iteration, because Google's already trouncing Apple on the software side when it comes to AI. Plus, I'm also going to, put out a hot take. I think when iOS 26 is released to the public, it is going to go over so badly.
Yeah.
Liquid glass is going to go over so badly that Apple will be forced to make it easier for people to tone it down.
Turn it off. You think there's going to be a slider? How much glass do you want?
Well, there is a slider in the accessibility.
Right.
But I think they're going to have to make it more prominent than an accessibility feature, because I've been using it recently on Dev Beta 6 just so that I could get a taste of it. And it is so bad. I hate it so much that I cannot imagine normie Gen Zs being like, yeah, this is fine.
Right.
They're gonna get so angry about this. Yeah, and to contrast that with Material 3 Expressive,
beautiful,
which is
gorgeous,
so nice,
gorgeous,
just exactly what you want Google to be doing. Right. Like, I just think Google is in a really good position to make this the year of the software update.
100%.
Before we go there, though, I do want to talk about the Pixel Pixel 10 Pro Fold.
Yes,
because even though it's not coming out until October, it is probably, from a hardware perspective, the biggest winner in terms of year-over-year changes, even though on the surface it doesn't look much different. So tell us why it is actually benefiting so much.
This is where you contrast with Samsung a little bit, because Samsung got a lot of heat for not making the flashy design changes that we've seen from overseas with the Galaxy Z Fold series. They did that this year. Nice thin design, sleek, a larger external display, a lot of different things there. However, what annoyed me about that phone is that when you're talking about giving us that 8-inch canvas, when you're talking about giving us a large screen experience, that's built for enthusiasts. So I'm going to need something that's going to tip the hat on the hardware side to enthusiasts. Google's turned around and said, okay, we're not going to give you the flashy external stuff. It's going to look largely the same. I think it's 1 gram heavier than the previous version. But we're going to give you a significantly better battery, bigger battery, 5015, because the 15 makes the difference, milliamp hours in there, and IP68 dust and water, IP68 rating. When I talk to people who have never tried a fold before, and you're trying to get people to take a chance and have that peace of mind, I understand it's still going to be not as durable as some of these other devices that you carry around, traditional slab phone. But adding that IP68 rating, I think, is a big milestone for these foldables. You add that bigger battery so I can actually use this giant display that you've given me. The software stuff, which we'll talk about, some changes on the way it's handled there. I think that the Pixel 10 Pro Fold is the fold that's built for people who use foldables, who want to use a book style fold. And if you're not worried about the design, if you're not worried about that, Google gave you meaningful upgrades to the Pixel 10 Pro Fold this year.
So that's, I think you're right. Like the biggest improvement there is the IP68, right? You can take this to the beach. This is the first foldable. I mean, I probably still wouldn't. Like, let's be honest.
Right.
This is a $2,000 phone. Like, let's not like use it on the beach. Take a Kindle instead. But you can use this on the beach, right? You can ostensibly do whatever you would with a regular phone with this one.
Yeah.
And giving Google the benefit of the doubt here, an IP rating is independently certified. So it's not Google saying, hey, we added dust resistance.
It's not a trust us type thing.
No, it's not a trust us. It's here's an independent body that does the same level of rigorous testing for every single device that wants to earn this rating. It's an expensive process. I think from an engineering perspective, this must have been extremely difficult. And I am so excited to see Jerry Rig Everything's teardown of this because holy cow, to see what Google did to earn this IP68 will be one of my favorite like magic revelations of the year.
And you nailed it. And that's the example that comes up a lot. And it's, okay, you're not going to the beach every day, but that's the example that people use. And it's more of an overarching thing. It's like, you don't want to have to determine what your schedule is for the day, whether you could take your smartphone with you or not. Right. If you work outdoors, if you're going to be out hiking, if you're going to be caught in the rain, if you're going to be any number of these scenarios that are just taken care of with the IP68 rating, just give in the back of their mind, people don't have to worry about what they're doing that day, about whether they're going to be okay bringing their smartphone outdoors. That makes a significant difference to people buying.
Yeah. So that's one addition, right? Is that there's now dust protection included in here. Fantastic. On the other hand, you mentioned just the dimensions of this thing. This is not thinner or lighter than last year's Pixel 9 Pro.
Touch heavier.
Yeah, it's a gram heavier. It's basically the same physical dimensions.
Yes.
The front display is now 6.4 inches instead of 6.3 because they have reduced the bezel slightly. But the inside display is the same 8 inches as it was last year. And overall, other than the addition of Qi 2 wireless charging, there are no major changes. You did mention that there's a larger battery, which is great. That's basically it. It's a 5,000 milliamp hour battery versus 4,650.
Right.
Anything else?
No, nothing that stands out. But those were, I think there was one other thing that maybe stood out to me. I'm forgetting at the moment.
Slightly faster wired charging. That's all I can see.
That would be which, hey, that makes a difference too. I just think that we nailed on the two big ones. It's not going to be flashy. It's not going to be the fold that you buy if you're ogling these ones from overseas and you look at all these other ones and you're always looking at the Honor V5 and you're looking at some of these other devices and you're just really excited about that. That's not going to be the one that you get. But if you're somebody who wants to actually use the inside screen, you got that 8-inch super actual, whatever they call it, super actual flexible display, and use it and have those extra features that we're going to talk about on the software side, I think a bigger battery is important. If you're spending close to $2,000 on a phone, Who's that typically skewing towards? Is it casual users? Maybe there's some more uses than there used to be for casual users, but I still think people spending that kind of money on a phone tilt more towards enthusiasts, and giving me a bigger battery to do my enthusiast things on my book style fold to me is a big deal.
Yes, I agree with you. However, I do want to say that I bought the Pixel 9 Pro Fold day one last year,
Okay.
and I used it as my daily driver for around 6 months. If you listen to this show, you heard the travails that I went through trying to get a MagSafe connector added to the back of the phone because I was so obsessed with being able to charge this thing wirelessly using my MagSafe chargers. You know how hard I worked to make this phone like the phone that I wanted to use every day forever.
Sure.
And it was still too big and it was still too heavy. And I really like I if it was 20 grams lighter and slightly thinner, I think it would have made a big difference. And while I got over it most of the time, when I used the Find N5 or the Galaxy Z Fold 7, it's just that little bit better that I really wish Google had made it lighter. And I can kind of understand why it didn't, right? Like consistency and the fact that like bigger battery, IP68, right? The hinge is probably a little bit bigger than Samsung's.
Sure.
All those things contributed to it.
Right.
But I still wish that the phone was physically different than it will be this year. If only because it's just going to be kind of out of the conversation in a way, right?
Yeah,
it's gonna be the final, right? Like the OnePlus is not making a new foldable. There are really no other companies making book style foldables with this design anymore.
Right.
And I don't know. It's gonna be a talking point. It won't be a laughing.
You're right.
Point, but it will be a talking point.
And I think that's why I'm actually okay with this, because I think that the Pixel 10 Pro Fold is great counter programming to what Samsung did. If you're someone like yourself and you're going to get, let's say Samsung had come out with, let's say Google had come out with a thinner 10 Pro Fold, and you're spending that kind of money, you're still not going to benchmark as well as something like the Z Fold 7. You're still maybe going to come in a little bit behind. Maybe the design's not going to be as sleek as that device. I would rather see, like Google's done with the rest of its smartphone lineup, Google kind of go off on its own. Like, just go do your thing and be that alternative that people need. So if you're like someone like yourself, that the Z Fold 7 is wonderful to live with. It's the first phone, the foldable, right, book style foldable, that you could say, you know what, I'm going to throw this in my pocket all day, and it's just going to feel like a regular device. And when I need that larger display, I can open it up. The Pixel 10 Pro Fold is not going to be like that. But at the same time, if you're somebody that needs that bigger battery life, wants that peace of mind, I like that Google has that alternative at least there. Won't be for everybody. Like you said, a lot of obstacles there as far as the size and weight. But I like that alternative is there.
Yeah, and we'll absolutely see that play out. So I want to move into software before we go into the other products. Let's talk about what you learned about the software features, because that's something I think that's probably more important than the hardware updates. And it's also at this point unclear what will trickle back down to previous Pixels. So we'll assume some of them will, and we'll also assume that based on the G5 and Google's typical gating of new AI features, some of them won't. So walk us through what we're getting.
Right. The first one that I think makes the biggest difference is Magic Queue. Magic Queue is kind of like this overarching clipboard that basically lives on the entire system. So it'll be in the background pulling information from different apps. Now, it's all on device. You could go in. Now, I asked about this. You could go in. There's granular controls. You could choose which apps that it pulls information from. But it's living in the background. So let's say the main example was, and this is you're calling the airline, and the information for your flight will be just right on the call card right there. When you pull your ear away, you have all the information you have there. The one that I like is if you're on a customer service call, it'll have the email there. So you can have your confirmation number. You can have all these things right there without you doing anything. If you're in messages, talking with your friends, it'll have the whatever calendar date you have with them coming up just there. So if they ask a question about where lunch is and you want to change plans, it'll say, okay, if you want to change plans, fine. Here's the number, here's the reservation, click this, and you can change it. I just like the fact that we're getting beyond where we need to be, where I need to know what I'm typing in and how I'm doing it. The multimodal stuff, like you talked about in Samsung, is frustrating, and it's been frustrating in the past on other devices because I have to parse the query, take something from my Google Notes, not my Samsung Notes, and make sure you put it in my Google Calendar or my Samsung Calendar, not my other guy. I don't want to know any of that stuff. AI can't be successful to the broad base of people who aren't enthusiasts unless it's just kind of there and part of the user experience. And Magic Q is the first bit of that. And there's lots of other stuff like the live translate, the camera assistant we'll talk about. But to me, just seeing that, and this is something that the Google reps highlighted. So it's a point of emphasis. I don't want to know what prompts I need. I just want to know how it works. I don't want to know what specific tool I need. I just want it there in the background working without me knowing when it's working. And you're going to see that with the photo editing. You could do just text photo editing. You could basically just talk to what you talk to the system on what you want done on a photo, and it'll do it. There was an example. It was a cat with a lamp in the background. The gentleman said, okay, remove the lamp from just Gemini, and it did it. That's how you're going to get people who don't watch this podcast, who don't read 20 articles on phones, to get to use this stuff and enjoy it and actually see it as a competitive advantage on why you'd pick up a Pixel over other phones.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I'm very curious about Magic Q because, as with most Google trollouts, there are two things to note. One is that it will likely do much less than what Google claims for
Correct.
a very long time. And eventually, when it does do all of the things that Google says it will do, it won't be quite as good. It'll still be useful, I have no doubt, but it will not be as useful as Google claims it will be. And that's just the nature of the game when it comes to Google's product announcements, right?
Yeah.
Everything that the company announces has a lot of potential, but given the nature of on-device AI, it's still going to have limitations. And I think we'll have to be realistic about that. But if you are on a call or you're trying to find the address to something and it gives you that one bit of useful information, it might be a wow moment that you'll come back to. And I think you're right. The main draw here over other implementations of AI is that you shouldn't have to enable it. You shouldn't have to even think about it. It should just do the thing. And if it proves itself capable of that, then we might actually have a hit on our hands.
Yeah, and that's a big shift. And I give Google, we were talking about the hardware stuff. I give Google a lot of credit, and I've given them a lot of grief in the past. A lot of fumbles, a lot of oddities. There's some quirks here and there. But as far as basically since the Pixel 8, as far as listening to what people, the consumer, and the feedback is, what are the problems that actual users are having? What are ways that we can actually make the experience easier for users? Of all the major manufacturers, I think Google's done a better job of listening to that over the past 2 years and at least tailoring the devices and the software experience towards that. I don't know if that's been your experience with that.
I'm a skeptic in general.
Oh,
if people
well, sure.
have listened to
some
the
of this
show,
stuff is nonsense. Yeah.
You know how skeptical I am of the efficacy of AI. And I've fallen for it, right? I was the one who wrote effusively about Pixel screenshots being like the way that I'm going to remember how to, text my mom or whatever every day. Like, these are things that I fell for when they were announced, and I walked them back. And I've also now seen the progression of agentic AI in a lot of interesting ways, right? I'm not somebody who goes on Twitter and reads through everything and, hey, AI will change your life this way or that way. But I've used AI in small but useful ways over the last few months, and they weren't in ways that I expected, right? And I have also done a lot more reading since we spoke about this last, where, I read about the history of OpenAI, about Sam Altman in general, about his relationship with Elon Musk and Dario Amodei of Anthropic. Like, all these princes of AI basically have been there for a decade toiling in the background, and they're now seeing the fruits of their labor pass into popular culture. And I just think it's incredibly dangerous for us to be giving them a free pass on basically anything.
Right.
And Google is not innocent here,
No.
right? Google may have invented the transformer, but it has impeded employees' ability to speak out about the dangers of AI for far longer than ChatGPT has existed.
Sure.
You know, if you remember the Timnit Gebru issue from all the way back in 2019, Google has been making it hard for scientists, researchers, employees in general to speak out about the potential ethical and moral ramifications of overly using AI. And then last week, when GPT-5 rolled out, Sam Altman went on all the blogs and gave all the interviews. And one of the things that I remember more vividly than any other snippet that he gave was he was talking to Cleo Abrams on YouTube. And she hosts the show Huge If True. And I love that series. I think it's great. But she was asking him about the video of the rabbits jumping on the trampoline. Have you seen this?
Yes.
Okay, so that is not a real video. It's a fake video. It's an AI generated video. It shows a bunch of bunnies finding their way up to a trampoline with what looks like a security camera on night vision. So it could be real, right? You know, I think it passes muster. And she asked him, have you seen this video? He said, yes.
Time travel trip. If we imagine in 2030, we are teenagers and we're scrolling whatever teenagers are scrolling in 2030. How do we figure out what's real and what's not real?
I can give all sorts of literal answers to that question. We could be cryptographically signing stuff and we could decide who we trust. But my sense is what's going to happen is it's just going to like gradually converge. You know, even like a photo you take out of your iPhone today, it's like mostly real, but it's a little not. There's like it's some AI thing running there in a way you don't understand and making it look like a little bit better. And sometimes you see these weird things where it,
The moon.
yeah. You've decided it's real enough, or most people decide it's real enough. The threshold for how real does it have to be to consider to be real will just keep moving.
To me, that is the most dangerous answer any person with that much power could have given, because they're
don't fix the problem, just shift your reality.
Yeah, they're not trying to preserve anything about our current reality. They are letting AI steamroll what humans tend to consider to be authentic art, and they don't mind muddying the waters, because to their eyes, AI intervention is just another form of artistic expression or of productivity or of disrupting the workforce or blah, 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 right? Like you can, turtles all the way down. And I find it to be both enthralling in the sense that Magic Q could be this cool feature that will make your life better because it'll give you your flight information when you're talking to an agent.
Right.
That's great. But the way Google is brute forcing Gemini and AI in general into everything it makes is not good, I think, for the future of mobile technology, insofar as you and I have spent not a second talking about Android or apps or design or whatever. It is Google is there. Its entire focus has been on AI and the update this year. So,
and to your point with that, we're talking about the zoom, the 100x zoom, where it's actually using AI to piece in portions of the photo. So which bit is the one that I'm getting the data from, and which bit is the one that you just kind of made up based on what you think is there?
Yeah.
And that just goes all the way down with whether a photo was real or not. Okay, so I took it, I saw it, I watched the demo, it was impressive, but how much of what I'm seeing the output of is what I was actually looking at? And that starts to go down that road.
So let's look at two of the new camera features then, because
Yes.
there's an auto add me,
Yes.
auto best take,
Yes.
which is an improvement on the manual best take feature, which you basically had to it took a bunch of frames, and you would choose the
Right.
best version of that, and it would sort of pick and choose hey, this person's face is good in this photo, this person's face is good in that photo, let's combine them and make the best version of both photos.
Yes.
That's a cool feature. It works really well. That was
Right, it
introduced a
does.
few years ago.
does.
Last year, Google created Add Me, which is a separate camera feature where you can add somebody or more than one person to a photo,
Right.
using multiple frames and blah blah blah. They've improved Add Me this year. You can now use it for larger groups. Again, nothing huge, but certainly leveraging the better AI models that are
Sure.
that are going to be locally on the device and up in the cloud as well.
And then you had and then Camera Coach.
Yeah,
which
so
is
that
interesting.
all that leads us into this new
Yeah.
Camera Coach feature.
Right.
What exactly is this?
So basically, it'll give you it'll look at a frame, it'll look at a scene that you're thinking of taking a photo of, and you go ahead and you hit Camera Coach, and it does a little analysis, and it'll tell you how to best stage that photo to get the most aesthetically pleasing to the AI model photo. Interesting. It worked. I was taking photos of certain things. It said, move this block over here and move this little marble thing over here and get the best photo. So that's another one that I don't mind that, because in a way it's teaching people who maybe don't know about composition, like myself. I'm not a photo or a video editor. And it teaches you little tricks and things like that to get better photos. And if you're a shutterbug, if you're buying a Pixel, you're obviously at least somewhat interested in photography. So I think that's a good behind the scenes teaching thing. And to your point before with Magic Q, that's kind of why I almost like and prefer this new approach from Google as far as AI. I'm not asking AI to do the thing. I'm not asking AI to do the thinking for me. And that's where we were getting into a lot of the trouble, I think, previously. What's the best? I'm sitting there on ChatGPT 5. What's the best way to do this? And trying to get the query just right so I get some sort of words doing the thinking for me. I like the fact that we've got a shift now where it's not doing that. It's just aiding me in what I would already be doing. And I don't know if that makes sense, but that's, to me, I understand there's a lot going on with Google, and there's a lot on the back end going on. They got a lot of information there, and AI is everywhere. I'm not saying I feel more comfortable with that implementation, but it feels less intrusive in replacing the way I think or trying to get me to think a certain way, as opposed to before when I'm trying to get the AI agentic or whatever to do stuff for me. That I'm less comfortable with.
Yeah, and I think for the camera features, most people just want to take better photos.
Yeah, just want
at the
to
end
work.
of the day,
Right.
And Google's always been really good about that. So, you see now there's an AI enhanced 100x zoom feature.
Right.
If that's usable, Google is going to make a big splash about being able to recreate details when you're zoomed in that far.
Well, that's the thing. So it's recreating details, but that was the target. So I'm 100x in. How much of it is my photo? How much is recreated? I mean, not full on Samsung taking pictures of the moon, but what are we talking about? What's my image, and what's the parts that were inferred or pieced in by AI?
Yeah, and we're going to see some crazy examples of Google getting it wrong, because those are always interesting to see.
Right. I think that's the overarching thing, is the one you said. These are all demos. These are all closed loop demos that were in a controlled environment. When you actually get it out to the real world, we'll see what happens. So all this is a big asterisk when I'm talking about this stuff. Just a big, hold on, a big maybe. Let's get them in our hands and actually go out and use them, and we'll see. But like you said, if everything's down the middle of the runway, if this stuff is as advertised, which has not always been the case with Google, we might be in a better spot with Gemini than we were a year, 18 months ago.
Okay. So those are the phones.
Yes.
Let's finish on pricing.
Sure.
They're same as last year, from my understanding.
Yes. So there's going to be, so you got $800, $1,000, and then $1,200, but you're getting a bump So the 10 Pro XL now starts with 256 gigs of storage as opposed to the 128. So you might be looking, it's like, wait a minute, there was not whatever last year was the base one, but now it's 1200 or whatever. Now I don't know how you feel about Pixel pricing, but this is why I think a lot of people come back and give Tensor the headache that they do. Is that 1200? You're in some rarefied air when you're talking about the other devices. So I could kind of see, as much as I understand that that's not Google's objective with Pixel devices, you can kind of get people's complaint on the expensive one that, hey, maybe I need a bit more here for that kind of money.
Agreed. Yeah, and I think that's true. I think that has been a problem in terms of value throughout the years, and why Pixel doesn't have a greater market share, among other reasons.
Sure.
But Google has always had a problem with perceived value of its hardware products, and it usually tries to extract a premium. I mean, look at Nest, right? Nest is a prime example of that. Not every Nest product is worthy of its premium. Some of them are, like the thermostats, but the speakers typically haven't been. And there are a number of other products in their lineup, even Nest products, that are overly, like, they just increased the price of Nest Protect. Nest
Aware.
Yeah, it's going up by $50 again.
Ooh.
So it's just like, that's just brutal.
And it's not the same old argument anymore. Years ago, when there was a noticeable gap in camera quality, Google could just point to, best camera. That's why the best camera. Don't worry about the fact that we don't give you as much RAM. Don't worry about any of this stuff. Best camera. And that's not, camera's still really good, but it's not, it's more of a personal preference now. I mean, if you like a warmer color temperature, you might even prefer a shot taken with an S25 Ultra. So it's not, they've had to get away from camera being the issue that they really rally around, saying this is why you buy a Pixel, this is why you'd pay that kind of money, even though we don't give you these other things. Not the case anymore. So I think that's why you're going to see stuff like the AI take center stage. They already tried, they already has taken center stage. We're just commenting on it, but that's going to be what creates that gap in value from something like an S25 Ultra. Yeah, okay, it's more powerful, more frames in Genshin Impact. Congratulations, we can do XYZ over here significantly better on the software side.
Yeah, I think that's true. Okay, let's talk about the watch. So,
yeah,
like the Pixel 10 Pro Fold, this is coming out in October, but there are some meaningful improvements to the Watch 4. Let's start with display. So it's a bigger display. It's got a domed design. So the actual OLED is domed, which gives 10% more active area.
It's nice.
It's 50% brighter, 3000 nits. Other than that, the watch looks the same as it did in previous years, but there is one major upgrade, or I would say improvement, and that's to the charging. So they now put the charging pins on the side of the watch, so you charge it like a dock. You dock it into its charger.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, like, what are we looking at here?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot. The docking thing is nice, by the way, to be able to have the pins on the side, to have it kind of like a nightstand type thing. And there was some various improvements there. You're not looking at a lot on in terms of hardware improvement. It's still very nice. It's still minimalist. It's still, I'll tell you what, the one thing that was featured significantly was Material 3 Expressive kind of filtering down to the watch and all through the watch. And the UI is gorgeous now. A lot of really nice stuff. And there was stuff, even just small touches throughout the user experience, whether it's the weather app, whether it's the steps, just looking at something like your steps for the day when you pull down. Really nice. It's going to go really well with your phone experience. And I think that is the main upgrade. And you do notice that, because I'm not a bezel police person. I don't care about bezels. The Pixel 9a, it looks like it has electrical taper on the outside of it. I don't worry about that much. But it is nice to have the dome around there. It is nice to see. It's like a bit more of a larger, not waterfall screen experience, but it is nice to wear on the wrist and see that. And then you have all that UI stuff on top of it. I do think you're going to enjoy if you're a Pixel Watch fan already, you're going to enjoy what you get with the Pixel Watch 4.
You're also getting
an upgrade? No, but
slightly longer battery too, 25% of an
Right, it's
improvement.
450 or 455. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the watch. I mean, it's going to be same sizes, 4145 as last year. Same price.
Right. I believe same price. Yeah.
Yeah. That should be good. I mean, I'm excited to try it. Faster charging too, longer battery life. I mean, you get all
Right.
the sort of iterative updates that you'd expect. But then we have the Pixel Buds 2A. Nothing much to talk about there. The A series has always done well for Google, and the Pixel Buds A series were fantastic for the price.
They're real for the money. They're nice. For the money, they're really nice.
$100. They've always done well.
That iris color is gorgeous.
Yeah, Google did well with the colors this year.
Oh, colors were nailed this year. Moonstone is. Let me tell you something. I didn't think Moonstone. I was like, oh, great, flat gray. That's exactly what the doctor ordered. But when I saw it in person, it's a bluish, purplish tint that really looks like moon, like the surface of the moon. They try to make it look like that, but it's very nice. Yeah. And then you got the iris. It surprised me. It was actually a lot better looking than I thought. The indigo, the callback to the really blue OG Pixel, the original Pixel, really nice. So even the yellow, the jade, the yellow, I didn't think I would like that. The yellowish green, I didn't think I'd like that, but they did it nice touch with not necessarily the rose gold, kind of the bronze frame on that. Really nice overall as far as the colors on the Pixel 10 series this year.
Yeah, and this is an A series bud with active noise cancellation. Yeah. So it's the first time they've included that. I don't know. I mean, $130 is a little bit more expensive than the MSRP of the Pixel Buds A, but $130 is still fairly affordable.
Yeah, and A and C, if they sound good, they look. You know, I think it's worth it. I definitely think it's worth it.
I think a lot of people will be happy with this. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that's the Pixel announcements. I mean, was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
I mean, I don't know if we'd have time to touch on it. The BlackBerry revival. I know you're a.
I mean, is it a revival, or is it just a couple of guys yelling at clouds?
It's a couple of guys yelling into the wilderness. But I wrote something today on that, and it was just that I love BlackBerry as much as anybody else. I used my Passport. I love physical keyboards, but I think at the end of the day, you can't go home again, and there's a reason for that. Because BlackBerry was about a lot more than just a keyboard. There was the servers. There was BlackBerry Protect. There was BlackBerry OS. Which, if you think, I don't know, I want to be able to teleport people back in time to when Windows Phone was around and when BlackBerry OS was around, to how you could have a powerful operating system that was power efficient and beautifully optimized for several different. You didn't need a Snapdragon 8 Elite to run BlackBerry OS. It ran on a Snapdragon S4 mid-range processor and still a beautiful, silky experience. So none of that stuff is ever coming back. So that to me is the main holdup with something like a BlackBerry Revival. You're gonna have to deal with Android at the end of the day, and there's only so many things you could do to Android. Still Android would be my no physical keyboard for you, man. Do you use it back
keyboards? Of course. I mean, I got my start in the industry with BlackBerry. I'm a Canadian BlackBerry
that's right,
guy through and through. I bought my first in 2007. I bought a BlackBerry
7230.
No. This was after that. This was my first BlackBerry was not the. Oh man, what was that? The small one, the narrow one, the T9 version. Yes,
right
the Pearl.
The Pearl.
The Pearl. So I got my first was a Pearl.
Okay.
And then I upgraded to the Bold.
Oh, Bold, the 9900 was the best.
The first 9900. No, it was the 90. Was it 9900? Yeah, it was the 9900. And I stayed on that for many years because I loved the Bold. And then I just got everything else, right? Like I was in it. I was in it from the beginning. Not the beginning, but I knew all about the devices.
Sure.
Even though I couldn't afford them at the time. You know, I remembered my BBM. My wife always teases me because when I first met her, I was like, she had a BlackBerry as well, and I told her my BBM. She's like, "You remember your BBM number?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm that guy."
I love it. What a date! Wow.
But no, I think we just have to accept that keyboards are dead. And I love clicks. I think our friends are.
I know, right? Friend of the program.
friends of the program, Mr. Mobile and Crackberry Kevin and the whole Clicks crew, like they're doing good for the industry in general.
Yes.
In terms of allowing, customization. And I think people are realizing that it's not just about being able to type on a keyboard. You can do a lot more in terms of shortcuts and macros and things like that. But I do think for the most part, it's not actually an improvement. And I see people like there's this Chinese company that you can retrofit your BlackBerry Classic with Android.
I see that.
That's fun. Like I think
Right.
as a project, but I think we're going a bit too hard on the nostalgia. I was in my garage the other day looking through my old phones. I found my BlackBerry Classic in like the beautiful leather pouch that they used to ship with it.
Yeah, on the hip. Yeah. Oh, that was a flex right there.
And it was it's a gorgeous piece of hardware. Like I will defend BlackBerry's design forever. It was gorgeous. It felt like nothing else. And yet I would not bring back BlackBerry OS. I would not. And I think the way that we unfortunately look at it now is as sort of a minimalist phone in a way. There were no apps, right? You got down to business. You sent your BBMs, you sent your texts, you got your replied to your emails. There was nothing else to do because BBOS, even when they upgraded the browser to WebKit, like you could still barely use it.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't a good smartphone. It was a really good communicator, even up until the end. And I'm a supporter. Like I think BlackBerry 10 was a good product.
Oh, it was too late.
It was solid. It was built on QNX. Like it had good bones, but without an app ecosystem, same with Windows Phone, right? It just could not survive.
Yeah, what killed Windows Phone? But you're right, a little too much to down, and that would be the problem. If you're looking to do a premium device, I recommend people. I've done the review or the features on that Unihertz Titan 2. That's easier to recommend to people who want to try out a physical keyboard, which is a $300 device. If you're talking about that BlackBerry build and the BlackBerry fit and finish on a newer device, no one's spending $800 on one of these, $900, because you're going to have to sell that to an entire generation of people who weren't around 20 years ago using smartphones and who don't have that nostalgia just itching in the back of their brain, who have only used glass displays to type on. And you're going to have to convince them, how is a keyboard phone better than what they're doing now in 2025 for social media, for a whole bunch of things? And like you said, that argument just isn't there to be made.
But,
I'm all for people
men,
doing something different, though.
We can dream.
Yes, of a similar vintage.
We're going to stop it there. Stephen, tell people where they can find you on the internet.
Android Police for sure. AndroidPolice.com. He's Steve Alicious Tech on YouTube. You'll hear me screaming even more with even more plushes in the background somehow, if that's even possible. And that's where you will see me most often.
Beautiful. You're doing good work over there, I gotta say.
We're trying. Thank you for having me. Listen, thanks for bringing it back. I knew I
had
to
this
drag
is not
you.
This is not me. This is you. You did this.
I knew I had to drag you. Dave was like, no, we're not. No, it's okay. Well, maybe we'll think about it. Something like that. Still getting over Will. I understand it.
Yeah, it's a break. Look, it's a breakup. I gotta say, it's like I'm still mourning this breakup.
You gotta go find yourself for a little while. I get it, and then come back because you don't want it to be a rebound type thing. I respected all that. But I'm
you waited. You waited a long time to ask me out. I will say.
But I was like, you know what? It's Google. We're coming into the fall season, the busy season. Your rightful place is in front of a microphone.
That's it.
And that you should be back doing the podcast.
Hey, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What's making you happy this week?
Oh boy. So yesterday, I got to be on the deck. My father was over. I had my daughter with me, and she was enjoying her first seeing steaks being grilled. And she was just looking at there, and I got a wide-angle photo of her with the grill and whatever else. It was a nice day. I was just looking around. I was like, you know what? That's what, if I wanted a goal, that was certainly the goal.
Beautiful.
Is to just have a moment like that with my daughter and whatever else. And I'll tell you what, it's two things. This is where we get sappy for a second. If you ask me why I am here in this chair doing this show and working at Android Police, period, ended. There was several people who I have to thank, of course, in the past. But this guy on the other end of the camera, or the other end of my the podcast here, this guy is the reason why I'm here, and I'll never forget it, because I heard a story that last year's Made by Google, you were sitting with a certain somebody, your former co-host, and you were asked, it was like, you know what, I want to bring this guy on. Is that okay? And you said, that's fine, but he's got that voice has got to come with him. That
Yes.
you got to have him do stuff for AP or whatever else and bring him on. And I never forget that for sure, and I appreciate that.
You are like my dream narrator that I want to just like upload your voice to an AI so I could recreate it and
would be,
say whatever, make it say whatever I want.
Use for Gemini. But no, I appreciate that. And if you have any questions, this is why I'm here. This guy right over here.
So what's making me happy this week is not nearly as tender, although I love my kids. My son had a 90-minute tantrum yesterday, so that didn't make me happy.
So I have to look forward to that. Good.
Oh yeah. But what's making me happy is the discovery of my favorite movies remaster, Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World.
Really?
Just got a 4K Ultra HD re-release on Steelbook Blu-ray.
All the Russell Crowe you could possibly handle.
It's so beautiful. I have to say, it is the most incredible restoration. Well, it's not a restoration; it's just an upgrade. But
because it came out in 2000. What? 2001?
2003.
Okay.
So it's not its first time on Blu-ray, but it's the first time on Ultra HD Blu-ray. It is stunning. One of the best ways to watch this film outside of the theater. I highly recommend, if you haven't seen this film, go watch it. It is outstanding. If you are a dad, you have probably seen this many times because it feels like every dad in the world loves this film. Okay. And it's borne out because the Blu-ray came out 2 weeks ago and you cannot buy it. You have to scalp it on eBay because it is sold out everywhere.
What are we talking about? What's the premium?
It is.
What are we talking about?
I don't know. It goes for like $80 MSRP.
Really?
So I'm guessing it's a lot. I haven't actually looked at the prices, but
you're going to have to listen, I'm going to rely on you heavily for reading stuff as we go through this. Because I have my reading has fallen off. I know that's your thing. I have no problem, like a little mini book club where I'll read stuff. But that's not, my reading has fallen off, and I know that's between the reading and movies. I gotta. Well, here's the problem.
Well, you have a kid. That's the problem. You have to make time.
It's also, I watch a lot of YouTube and Twitch because I'm a 40-plus-year-old man on the internet who makes his living on the internet. I'm one step away from how do you do fellow kids meme. Mm-hmm. And so I have to stay up on the lingo and whatever else. But I will make an effort to.
That is so cringe.
Listen. You can't say faded anymore. Like there's whole different. You get one of these things wrong and they cancel you. That's it.
So
career is over.
You have homework. If you haven't listened to the K-pop Demon Hunter soundtrack yet.
What?
K-pop Demon Hunter. It is the song of the summer. Golden. It's the song of the summer. If you want to be up with the Gen Z and the Gen Alphas, you have to know this song.
Okay.
That is your homework.
All right. I'm going to listen
and
to
everybody else listening, tell me. If you have any feedback, if you want to see us more often than once every 2 weeks, podcast@androidpolice.com. And thank you for having us back. I know it's been a while. Glad to be here. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.